Back continuing my discussion right now with Professor Steve Nemerovski. Steve is a real third-party advocate, as I know most of our listeners are. A third party certainly would even the playing field and probably increase the efficiency, for lack of better terms, of government, certainly on the federal level. A general question that I would have for you, Steve, is why don't you think the libertarians have really become effective as a third party?
I've been studying the libertarians a bit through the years, and I've read some of their materials. And I think they're not an effective third party because I actually don't think they are a political party. I think the libertarians are a philosophy. And if you want to be a political party, you've got to be prepared for some really rough and tough rumble type stuff. Politics is not for the faint of heart. It's a tough sport. And I don't think the libertarians have gotten to the place where they can mix it up and get into this rumble and succeed. Another thing that they think they fail at is, again, they always are trying to obtain these lofty, offices. They ran a campaign for president last time around. My theory is you don't run for president. You get 2 or 3 libertarians elected on a school board, get them elected here and there, and then you build on top of that. That's attainable from my perspective. If you focused on winnable races in winnable jurisdictions, and then you took your resources and you focused them there, you can win elections. During the presidential campaign, they actually raised some money this time around. But they took all that money and dumped it into a losing presidential race. What if they would have taken $5 million of that and gone to, state X and said, we're going to put $5 million into 5 state representative races and get the kind of media you need, the kind of advertising you need, the kind of messaging you need, hire some true political professionals, and we're going to go and try and win those 5 seats, the same 5 seats I talked about in the last segment. That's how you would spend $5 million, from my perspective, and that's how you would start building a libertarian party. You just don't have this philosophy that I'm talking about and say, well, we'll just run someone for president, because you're not even going to win.
Yeah, that's true.
And last year, I thought they kind of embarrassed themselves because when they had a moment in time when they had a chance to really grab people's attention, they couldn't figure out how to grab attention. And then next thing you know, they were gone.
I think it's a really good point. The one comment I would make that I think is important to reiterate here real quick, but I know a lot of libertarians. I don't, obviously Jeff Dice, Lou Rockwell, et cetera, Ron Paul, Daniel McAdams. These guys are all gentlemen. They're not street fighters like Hillary Clinton, for example, or for that matter like Donald Trump, who I think Donald Trump can be very accurately classified simply as a Jersey brawler, for lack of better terms. I would have to say, Steve, that I feel strongly that you're on the right track. The question is, a third party would have to raise so much money to be able to compete with the members of either side of the aisle. I mean, we're talking about campaign finance now has gotten to the point where it's in the billions of dollars, which quite frankly kind of pisses me off. We got people sleeping under bridges, we've got kids starving to death, and these damn politicians are spending upwards of $1 billion to get elected. That's just crazy.
It's beyond crazy. And again, I said the campaign finance system is what protects incumbency protection. But you've got a lot of people out there right now, and if you look at them, the 1% of the 1%ers, and some of these people are figuring ways to go out of pocket to spend $50, $100 million at a crack in an election cycle. What if they took a step back and said again, what if I just only put $5 million into a state X? Let me pick on Illinois because I come from there. It's dysfunctional as any state there is. What if I tried to help elect these 5 representatives? That's about the most efficient use of this political money that they could get. And if they really, truly wanted to help fix the system, they could get there. Now, having said that, I agree with you about the money, but in this age we're in right now, where you've got, between Twitter and the internet and all these places where you can message people without needing a lot of money, and again, if you keep it local, I think there's enough elements there for messaging that you can run campaigns and still be hard-hitting, but not have to have this, multi-million dollars.
The last campaign was really interesting in the sense that former Secretary Clinton clearly outspent to a very large degree Trump, as I understand it. Trump also pretty much financed his own campaign, as I understand, although being a card-carrying member of the Republican Party, I can't tell you how many fundraising calls I get almost on a daily basis from area code 202. Anyway, having said that, I want to talk a little bit about the efficiency of some of our politicians right now, if you wouldn't mind on that one. And I'm really curious, how do you feel that Trump is doing a passable or good job as a president of the United States?
Well, that's not a question we can answer in the next 2 or 3 minutes, but let me say this. When you're talking before about Trump as a communicator,
yeah,
I find his language and his style of communicating occasionally, if not almost all the time, becoming beyond offensive. Mm-hmm. Having said that, I think Trump is unvarnished, and I think the Trump you see is the real Trump. We don't have that with many politicians.
No. So
there's a certain authenticity to his not being a politician. The Trump you see is the Trump you get. I've been, as a lobbyist, I've been with many politicians who have a public face and they have a private face.
Right.
So I think Trump has become an effective communicator to the sense that when you hear him, you know what you're getting. So I'm not trying to defend it, but I think you know what you're getting. In terms of if he's been an effective president, he did get elected as a Republican. As I said, I think he hijacked the Republican Party.
Yeah.
He has been delivering on a share of his promises. He promised conservatives on the court.
Yes, he did.
As far as I can tell, he's delivered on that. He promised tax reform, and they got their tax reform deal done. I think if you went through and saw what Trump said he wanted to do as president, particularly in a dysfunctional system, he is delivering a lot of what he promised. And I think people, depending on when they start going to the elections, will look past some of the rhetoric in that regard and say, well, he promised this and he delivered this, and they'll say, I don't get that with any other politician. So that's the trade-off they make. He may lose them on the style points, but if he actually delivers on what he's promised to deliver on, that could be a winning message.
I think it's a really good point. The one comment I want to get your opinion on right now, the comment that I have about politics in the U.S. right now is if you look at the Progressive Party, the Progressive Party is attempting, in a very broad sense, to tug at the heartstrings, for lack of better terms, of the American public. I mean, clearly they're rationalizing, breaking the law in many instances. They're rationalizing, I guess I would have to say, welfare beyond anybody's imagination, etc. And they're basically implying very effectively that the other side, the non-progressives, are bad people because they don't care about human beings. That's a very effective ploy, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
Well, it gets to what I was talking about before. If you can't deliver philosophically and if you can't deliver results, what has happened in our political system is you then have to play the blame game.
Right.
And we're in a scenario where neither party has been overly effective. We had this dysfunctional government that you talked about before, and the only thing they're selling right now is blame. And the progressives, who, if no matter where they're going with their message, they have decided that playing the blame game is what's going to keep their attention factor out there. That they may not be able to sell their philosophy or what is they're pushing, but they can sell blame. And in American politics right now, if you can sell that blame and you can lay more blame off on the other guy, you end up winning election.
I find it interesting that it definitely didn't win the presidential election in 2016. I think a lot of America is fed up with it because I think a lot of America, myself included, really makes it a point to help people help themselves and to contribute to causes that are really worthwhile where capital is actually needed. That in my opinion is the only thing that will allow America to continue to be great. The guys in the street like Big Al and yourself and other people have to put their money where their mouth is, and when I say that, what I mean is they have to really care and really take the onus off the hands of the government, and they have to say, you know what, we're going to do this, we're going to help these people ourselves. That's where I think the progressives are really letting down. Professor Steve Nemerovski, always been a pleasure chatting with you. Going to get you on again in the near future.